Have you ever stopped to think that the ground beneath your feet could vanish in seconds? The city where you were born, the bridges that cross the rivers, the buildings that seem eternal, all of it could crumble with a single tremor. Nature doesn't warn, it doesn't negotiate, it doesn't hesitate. When the planet moves, humanity is reduced to what it has always been: dust resting on the crust of a living colossus. Today, we'll dive into the depths of the Earth and uncover what really happens when the world decides to break apart. My name is Arthenox, and this is Cloaked Mysteries, the channel where time bleeds and the Earth reveals horrors the universe tried to hide. There is always a moment of silence before the chaos. A brief second when everything seems normal until the ground beats like a heart about to explode. The asphalt bends, the buildings twist, and what was once familiar turns into a nightmare. It feels like betrayal. The very ground that has held us since the beginning of existence suddenly turns against us. Amid screams, dust, and ruins, humanity faces the truth: our civilization is fragile. All technology, all science, all pride vanish before the brute force of the Earth. In that instant, there are no rich or poor, no wise or foolish, only bodies trying to balance on a planet that no longer wants them there. An earthquake is a reminder that the planet breathes. It's the cracking of the Earth's bones, the natural adjustment of a living creature. Tectonic plates collide, grind, and slide beneath us in an invisible ballet that moves mountains and swallows cities whole. And the most terrifying part is realizing it never stops. Even now, as you listen to my voice, the Earth is shifting slowly, preparing for the next tremor. Because the planet never sleeps. It only waits for the right moment to remind us that it's alive. 66 million years ago, the world shook like never before. An asteroid, carrying the force of 100 billion atomic bombs, struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact lit up the sky like 1,000 suns, vaporizing oceans and making the ground roar in every direction. The Chicxulub crater, 200 kilometers wide, became the cradle of one of the greatest extinctions in history. But the real destruction didn't come from the impact, it came from the darkness. Dust rose into the stratosphere and smothered the sun. The planet fell into a night that lasted for years. Photosynthesis stopped. Forests died. The animals that fed on them followed soon after. The air filled with ash, and the Earth became a frozen desert. The dinosaurs vanished, and with them, an entire era was erased from the planet's memory. Yet from the ashes, life began again, smaller, weaker, quieter, as if it had learned to fear its own creation. Humanity likes to believe it conquered nature, that it tamed the seas, mastered the winds, and claimed the fire. But there are forces asleep beneath the crust that recognize no borders, governments, or gods. The planet is a living organism, and its veins run deep with magma and pressure. Every dormant volcano is a reminder that we live atop a fragile shell floating on a sea of fire. And when that shell decides to move, nothing stands tall. Earthquakes are just one weapon in nature's vast arsenal. There are volcanoes that tear open the sky, seas that rise, and fires that devour the air itself. Ancient legends about floods, destruction, and angry deities may in fact be echoes of real catastrophes. Entire civilizations were wiped out before we ever learned to write. And perhaps, millennia from now, another species will walk upon the ruins of what we once called humanity, trying to decode our warnings. On December 26, 2004, the Earth moved beneath the Indian Ocean. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake lifted the ocean floor for over 1,000 kilometers. Within minutes, the water began to recede, revealing the impossible fish gasping on bare sand, coral reefs exposed to the sun. Tourists ran to take photos, unaware that the sea was merely inhaling before the final strike. Then came the wall, a liquid fortress 15 meters high, charging forward with the speed of an airplane. Entire cities were wiped from the map. The sea dragged temples, cars, hotels, entire families into oblivion. In just a few hours, more than 300,000 people were gone. The energy released equaled all the bombs dropped during World War II combined. And the most chilling part, the ocean wasn't angry. It was simply obeying the planet's command. Since then, warning systems and barriers have been built, but safety is an illusion. Because deep down, we know the sea never forgets. It watches. It waits. And one day, when the forces beneath it awaken again, the sound you'll hear won't be the wind, it'll be the roar of the abyss. The Pacific Ocean is a living scar. Around it lies a chain of volcanoes and fractures we call the Ring of Fire. It's where the planet breathes hardest, where the crust splits, and magma spills like blood. What we call earthquakes, the planet calls heartbeats. And we, fragile passengers, simply try to survive its moods. For centuries, ancient peoples believed the gods lived beneath volcanoes. Today, we call those gods tectonic plates. But the essence is the same: invisible, unfathomable forces ruling the destiny of everything that exists. Japan, Chile, Indonesia all rest upon veins that could pulse again at any moment. And when they do, the world remembers that its very foundation was born from chaos. On March 11, 2011, Japan heard the roar of the ocean. A magnitude 9.0 earthquake shook the earth for 6 endless minutes. Moments later, waves 40 meters high rose from the sea and charged inland. They swept away cities, ships, and lives alike. And in the heart of the destruction, the Fukushima nuclear plant began to fail. Explosions shook the reactors. The wind carried radioactive dust for miles, poisoning both land and sea. It became the most expensive disaster in modern history, a reminder that human technology is a glass fortress before the planet's fury. Even today, the region around Fukushima still glows in silence, an invisible, deadly light reminding us of the price of playing with the Earth's power. Many wonder, what if one day, an earthquake of magnitude 13 struck? A tremor so immense it split the planet in half. Science tells us it would take a quake 53,000 times stronger than the largest ever recorded, the 1960 quake in Chile. That year, villages vanished, the soil tore open like a wound, and the sky darkened with dust. Yet the Earth endured. It always does. The planet is a body made of pressure, rock, and patience. It bends, breaks, and rebuilds itself. A quake of that scale could destroy our civilization in seconds, but not the planet itself. Because the Earth does not die. It merely changes form. And when it does, perhaps will be the fossils another being will one day unearth and call the ancients. When everything ends, the world hangs between two moments: what was, and what has yet to be born. The sirens fade, the wind whistles through the ruins, and the warm ground exhales a silence heavier than fear itself. It's in this stillness that the Earth breathes. Slowly, as if recovering from a seizure, it rearranges what's left. What once were streets, homes, and cities is now dust. Civilization itself becomes a cloud of memory drifting in the air. And we, who believed we ruled the planet, stand powerless as it redefines what permanence truly means. The silence after the quake is almost sacred, a moment where the planet seems to listen to its own heartbeat. The plates still grind, the soil still trembles, but there's a strange calm, like the chest of a sleeping beast rising and falling beneath the cold skin of the Earth. Survivors wander through the wreckage, searching for faces, names, and fragments of their past. In every fallen stone, there's a piece of history. In every shadow, an echo of a voice. And in that desperate search, something becomes clear: we are not the owners of this world. We are part of it, and it can erase us whenever it chooses to begin again. Days pass. The dust settles. Nature begins its slow, steady healing. Plants sprout through cracks in the concrete. Birds return, building nests where there was once only steel and glass. The rain falls, washing away the scars, painting color back into the darkened soil. And we begin to understand the true miracle of existence, that even after total destruction, life insists. It doesn't need us. But we need it to remember that the planet never dies, it only changes shape. Earthquakes, tsunamis, eruptions, all are pulses of the same living body. Every catastrophe is the planet readjusting its balance, realigning its unseen forces. For the Earth, there is no end, only transformation. And if today we rule the world, tomorrow will be nothing more than sediment, layers of dust beneath a new sky. Because what we call destruction is, to the planet, just another breath. Perhaps one day, when the final tremor comes, the world will return to its origin. The seas will calm, the air will grow heavy, and silence will cover everything. No human sound will remain. No artificial light will shine. Only the deep, rhythmic pulse of the earth, ancient and eternal. And that sound, perhaps unheard by any living ear, will be the planet's final word. The world doesn't end in explosions, it ends in silence. No fireworks, no screams, no trumpet of apocalypse. Only the muffled whisper of wind through ruins, the rustle of ashes, and the distant echo of a planet going back to sleep. With every cycle, the earth destroys to create anew, closing old wounds and opening paths for what's still to come. And within this endless rhythm, humanity is but a brief note in the symphony of creation. When we gaze into the vastness of the universe, we see how small we are and how lucky we are to witness this living colossus in motion. We live atop a heart that has been beating for billions of years, and it will keep beating long after our names are forgotten. The earth doesn't hate us. It simply follows its nature. And perhaps humanity's greatest mistake is believing it can own what was born to be free. The true lesson of these quakes isn't fear, it's humility. Every ruin is a reminder that life is made of moments, and everything we build, empires, cities, memories, is dust. Yet while we're here, breathing the air it gives and walking upon its living body, there is still beauty. Because despite its fury, the earth is merciful. It lets us start over, plant, love, and tell stories about its own end. And in the end, maybe that's the meaning of existence, to keep going, even when everything falls apart. So if you've made it this far, stop and listen. The sound you hear isn't the end, it's the planet breathing. And as long as it breathes, there will be new beginnings, new cycles, and new stories waiting to be told. Leave a comment below. What do you believe will come after the last earthquake? And subscribe to Cloaked Mysteries, the channel where the earth's silence speaks, and where the end of the world is only the beginning of another story.